Hi. I know it's been a hot minute since I've posted anything, nearly a quarter of a year, but welcome to System 238 again. Yeah, I'm gonna make a flying boat today. We'll see how that goes. Hi, Pancake. Guys, you wanna meet my pig? Hey, Pancake. Okay. I'm going back inside, it's cold. To start off this project, I decided to make the Zeppelin-esque floats that would be holding the ship in the air. To do this, I used a Dr. Pepper bottle and a Sunny D bottle. I wanted to fit the Sunny D bottle inside of the Dr. Pepper bottle, so I cut off the tip to what I assumed would be the right width. It was not. It didn't fit. However, instead of widening it, which might end up poorly later, I decided to cut the back off. I thought this would simply make it look good, and I was going to cover the back end anyways. There was no reason to keep it there. And if I widened the front, I risked making it too wide. And wouldn't you know it, it fit pretty much perfectly after that. Just needed a little push. So I sealed it in place. For the other side of the ship, the end where the fire and such comes out, I used what was, I believe, the end of a decorative Roman candle handle, which is a type of firework. And I thought, that looks like a thruster, so I put that in. It is kind of rough looking, so I used some plastic binder that I had gotten from, I can't remember if it was the side of the road or my father, to make it look a little bit nicer. But it still looked pretty plain in the back, and a lot of fantasy ships have that little extra side guards to them. I don't know what you would call them, but they're in a lot of fantasy ships, and I liked the way they looked, so I attached to them. Thought it just added that extra little bit of flair. For the back, or the front, I guess, I used the other part of said decorative firework from earlier, and a cardboard tube. The cardboard tube just gave some more contact points against the bottle, helped seal it a little bit better and steadier. I thought it gave it a nice aerodynamic look, even though it wouldn't be aerodynamic at all. Then I made a second one. I thought they looked pretty good, which means it's on to the next part. For the actual boat itself, I decided to use another bottle, which I assumed would be simple to cut in half. It was not. It was kind of painful, actually. Had to get out the big scissors. And once that was done, I got out the balsa wood. I've never used balsa wood before, but I've heard from other YouTubers and just the forums that it was great for making scaled down wood, because wood looks really great, even when it's small. I had originally planned to just wrap a strip around the side, thought it would look nice, but it didn't really have that angled look I feel like a boat should have, especially one that needs to be aerodynamic, flying through the air. Just didn't look right to me. So I, fixed it by destroying it with a knife. Be careful with knives, kids. But I made it just a little bit more angled. Instead of having the sides be one whole stick, it was two sticks. And in the end, I thought it looked a lot nicer, so I went ahead and filled the rest of it out once I got them to look the way I wanted, once they were all at the right length. And here we are. Here's it, somewhat filled out. I filled out the rest of it, again, off camera. It's a very tedious process. I wanted to add a little bit more decoration to this, so I thought the end of this, the roof of this RC car might make a good pilot room, I guess. Not a cabin. The cabin goes on the back of the ship, but this one will go under. It's flying, thought it would make a good room for the pilot to control the ship from, so that way you don't hit anything. So after some alteration, I went ahead and glued it on there. It was a pretty light glue. I wasn't entirely sure this is what I wanted to do yet, which ended up being good because I didn't do that. In fact, the very next week when I was at the other household, I tore it right off, and it only took a second. I then decided that it might look better as the cabin, the whole RC car, but it would require a bit more modification later. And here is the boat all filled out. I got using some coffee stirrers to make the platforms the deck. And I also made the little staircase to get down under. I did lose this piece later and would have to remake it, unfortunately, though. And here's the cabin, which means it's on to the next part. Said next part being the base. The base I didn't really record a whole lot for, even though I should have, because it's a really fun process, but all I basically did was trace it out and then make some marks, folding and everything, to give me where these rods needed to be. The rods were copper. I thought it went nice with the whole steampunk aesthetic. I put some white paint on the top so that way I could mark out on the boat where I needed to make the holes. I'll let my in-person self describe how that went. This took a while. This was a pain. Overall, a pretty short chapter, but now it's on to the small details. As chapter 3 we said, it's on to the little details, starting off with attaching these two things together-ish. And then attaching the wing of a Naboo starfighter. This is really one of the only pieces from an actual model kit I used during this build, so I was pretty proud I managed to do it all without a whole lot of model in this model. A quick dry fit just kind of to see how it looked, how I wanted this to go, and I think it was turning out great. It was going to be a little bit off center, but I thought it would look nice. To make it even better, I decided to add the spew thing in the middle. With the wrong tools, I decided to make this, as myself learned, immediately. Because I snapped it, if you hadn't gathered. I could have just cut another one, but I decided to work with it and glue it back together. You'll never see this piece again. I don't ever record attaching it for some reason. But a piece I did record the whole process of making was the final detail of the thrusters. Just a little spot for the actual flames to come out of. I liked this detail. No one in the competition that this was inserted into actually noticed it, I'm pretty sure, but I thought it was good. And then I proceeded to hurt myself. Twice. Then I got the actual right tool for the job, and all of my problems went away. These rods would eventually be used to hold up the Zeppelin balloons of the ship, because this project I have to literally defy gravity. But that's a problem for future me. Right now, I'm going to make the frame for the little cabin windows. A fun little detail I made with index cards and coffee stirrers. And then my favorite detail on the ship is the door. I don't know why, making doors is just fun. It's one of my favorite little details you can add to any build. The one on the windmill, I like it a lot. I love the way they look. The little wooden doors are just fun. They're fun to make too. They're simple and they're just a nice detail that always adds. I unfortunately didn't have the same little square gold bead, so I did have to use a circular one for this door, unlike the squarish one that I had on the windmill, which I do like more. But for the last little detail of this chapter, I made some pipes, because what is steampunk without copper pipes? But now, it's on to our short story. The worst thing someone can find out in the rift, out on the far side, where if you wander, is another ship. Most of us here out on the far side are outlaws, hermits, people who won't be missed when they go missing. It rarely matters whether the ship we've stumbled across is a manned crew or a lost one. If it's a manned crew, they're probably pirates. They might be just another hermit, but the alternative, if you're wrong, is rarely worth the risk. And a downed ship? Well, that means something was there to make it the downed ship, no? I've lived out here long enough to have seen my fair share of bodies. Been responsible for several, unfortunately. I do wish our world was different, truly. I wish I didn't have to hide myself and my creations out here. Or that we all had to hide out here. I wish my family could have a normal life wherever they are. But my childhood dream, my passion, the thing I dedicated my life to, that made me useful to the Empire. A weapon. I thought they were righteous so long ago, that they could do no wrong. I miss that life, that innocence. Based on the holes lining the edges of this ship, I imagine its crew did too. What a salvage craft was doing out this far in the rift is lost on me, but what killed them? That's painfully clear. The Empire in all of its glory has a nasty habit of silencing those who speak out against its misdeeds. Most don't have the skills or resources to survive out here on the wrong for long. Because of that, many fall to the Empire's cruel hands. Or nature's. This crew, 5, assuming the guard ship that shot at this one down didn't take prisoners, and they rarely do, and a deck handler droid. An I-58 unit, I imagine, though it's in several pieces now. They weren't prepped for a long journey out here. Even if they weren't shot down, they likely would have fallen to nature's cruelty anyways. As much as I hate other people, I do wish I could have helped them. I'll give each of them a proper burial before collecting what I can from the salvaged. It won't be of much use to them anymore. The Tidefall has served me well for the last decade, and the scraps from the fallen ship will be useful for repairing her. The bodies of the fallen, they remain in my mind as I work, as my ship floats blissfully through the sky and the sea of fog. I can't help but think about what I could have been doing out here all this time. If the crew of that ship would have fallen if I wasn't in hiding, if I was out there doing something. Those thoughts won't leave for a while, but I need to refocus. There are other things I need to be worried about right now. The Tidefall can't go much longer without fuel. The fact that she has stayed afloat out here for 10 cycles on the scraps of fuel I can find her, if you can even call it that, is a miracle on its own. But soon in the next year or so, I'm going to need to head back to the floating markets, to society. The Tidefall, she's going to need real repairs soon, and replacements that aren't commonly carried. As skilled as I am of an engineer, even I can only keep a ship in the air for so long before she'll be consumed by the fog. But that's far from the only reason I need to return. It's dawning on me that there are only so many places on this planet that I can hide before the Empire figures out where I am. There's a very real chance that they know I'm out here already and are simply raiding any airships they come across in the hopes that it's me. Even if they aren't. They are too close for comfort. It's about time that I come out of the shadows, return from the unknown. Soon, I'm going to need to find a way to get back at the Empire for all its wrongdoings. Soon I'll have to make them fall. Pay their dues, like every empire that's fallen prior to them. Thank you all so much for watching. I know it's been a while since I've posted. It's been very busy. I acquired a new sibling. Lots of stuff has been happening. I spent a really long time editing this video, trying to make it as good as I could to make up for that. And if you did like this video, please like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next episode of System 238.